For Roberts, wonder proved that her star power was as strong as ever. She could still draw audiences to theaters with an hockey. Chanel compelling performance. In Pixar 2022, she made a triumphant return to romantic comedy with Ticket to Paradise. The film reunited her with Shoka, George Clooney, and was directed by Ol Parker, the filmmaker behind Mamma Mia. Here we go again. The story followed a divorced couple who reluctantly team up to stop their daughter from rushing into marriage. The movie was fun, light-hearted, and filled with the same effortless chemistry that made Roberts and Clooney such a great duo, at a time when romantic comedies were struggling in theaters. Ticket to Paradise became a surprise global hit, earning nearly $170 million worldwide. Beyond starring in the film, Roberts was also a producer, proving once again that she had the ability to shape and influence her projects from start to finish. Challenging roles: August, Osage County, and Homecoming. Roberts has never been content with just being a rom-com queen. She has consistently taken on darker, more intense roles, and one of her most powerful came in Brassy in 2013, with August, Osage County. Based on Tracy Lett's Pulitzer Prize-winning play, the film was a gritty family drama. Roberts played Barbara Weston, a woman trying to hold her family together while facing off against her cruel, manipulative mother, played by Meryl Streep. The movie premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival before its wide release in December 2013. While reviews were mixed to positive, Roberts' raw and emotional performance stood out. Vanity Fair called it searing and unrelenting. Her intense on-screen battle with Streep was one of the film's biggest highlights. The role earned Roberts her fourth Academy Award nomination, this time for Best Supporting Actress. August, Osage County grossed $74 million worldwide on a $25 million budget, winning 16 awards and receiving 67 nominations across various film circuits. Then, in 2018, Roberts took another bold step, this time into television. She starred in Homecoming, an Amazon Prime psychological thriller, directed by Sam Esmail, the creator of Mr. Robot. Roberts played Heidi Bergman, a caseworker at a mysterious facility designed to help soldiers adjust to civilian life. But as the story unfolds, Heidi begins to realize something isn't right. The show moved between two timelines, one where Heidi worked at the facility and another where she struggled to remember what really happened. Homecoming was unlike anything Roberts had ever done. It was tense, psychological, and filled with unexpected twists. Critics called her performance one of her finest in years, praising the more quiet intensity with which she played Heidi's growing confusion and fear. The role earned Roberts a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Television Series, Drama. Not only was she the star, but she was also an executive producer, reinforcing her ability to shape compelling projects, both in front of and behind the camera. The Rise and Fall of Larry the Cable Guy, a comedy icon's untold story. Picture this. It's past midnight at Walmart, and the scene is straight out of a sideshow. You walk in, and it feels like they should be charging a cover fee because what you're witnessing is nothing short of a casting call for Ripley's Believe It or Not. At one point, Larry the Cable Guy was pulling in a staggering $50 million a year. He wasn't just a comedian, he was a phenomenon. His catchphrase, Git-R-Done, echoed across America. He sold out entire football stadiums, dominated stand-up comedy, and became a household name. Then, just as suddenly as he rose to fame, he vanished. Behind closed doors, Larry was battling a storm no one saw coming, crippling anxiety, addiction, and a bizarre accident in a porta potty that left him with severe PTSD. The man who once made the world laugh was trapped in his own personal nightmare. Today, Daniel Lawrence Whitney, better known as Larry the Cable Guy, lives on a quiet ranch in Nebraska, far from the spotlight, and for the first time, he's ready to reveal why he walked away from it all. From small-town roots to big-time laughs. Born on February 17, 1963, in Pawnee City, Nebraska, Larry grew up on an 80-acre farm, surrounded by the simple, hard-working life of rural America. His father, Tom Whitney, was a Christian minister who had once played guitar for the Everly Brothers, while his mother, Shirley, kept the household running. Life in Pawnee City was modest, but it laid the foundation for Larry's down-to-earth humor. Then, at 16, his world was turned upside down. His family packed up and moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, where his father took a job as a school principal. Suddenly, Larry was a Midwest farm kid thrown into a completely different world. He played football, graduated from Berean Christian School in 1982, and headed to college, first at the Baptist University of America in Georgia, then at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. But college wasn't where he found his calling. The birth of Larry the Cable Guy. In college, something unexpected happened. His roommates from Texas and Georgia had thick Southern accents, and as a joke, Larry started mimicking them. But the joke took on a life of its own. The accent stuck, and soon it became part of his identity. By his junior year, he knew college wasn't for him. Comedy was calling, and he wasn't about to wait around. The early 1990s saw Larry's first real break in radio. He started making guest appearances on The Ron and Ron Show and The Bob and Tom Show, but not as himself. Instead, he created a character, Larry the Cable Guy. Larry was loud, brash, and unapologetically Southern. His exaggerated drawl, outrageous stories, and blue-collar humor struck a chord with audiences. One catchphrase, in particular, became legendary. Git-R-Done. By 1995, Larry the Cable Guy wasn't just a radio bit anymore. He was a full-blown persona. That year, for the first time, he was officially booked under the name. From that moment on, the line between Daniel Whitney and Larry the Cable Guy began to blur. From dive bars to stadiums, Larry spent years grinding it out in small-town bars, perfecting his act. His comedy wasn't about politics or deep social commentary. It was about everyday life. He made jokes about Snuggies, weird family members, and the quirks of rural America. His humor was simple, relatable, and laugh-out-loud honey. Then, in 2000, everything changed. Larry joined the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, alongside Jeff Foxworthy and Ron White. What started as a stand-up tour quickly turned into a cultural movement. The tour was an unstoppable force, performing over 100 shows a year and pulling in more than $15 million annually. Larry had found his audience, people who didn't see themselves represented in mainstream entertainment. He spoke their language, and they showed up in droves to see him. The first show, in Omaha, Nebraska, on January 14, 2000, sold nearly 7,500 tickets. By the time the tour wrapped up at the Warner Theater in Washington, Larry the Cable Guy wasn't just a comedian. He was a comedy legend. So what happened? How did he go from selling out stadiums to disappearing from the public eye? Stay tuned, because the story is just getting started. Larry the Cable Guy, from comedy, superstar, to Pixar icon. By March 2006, the Blue Collar Comedy Tour had become a juggernaut. After 124 shows and nearly 500,000 fans, the tour had grossed over $16 million in ticket sales alone. But it wasn't just about the live performances. The tour spun off into DVDs, TV specials, and even a dedicated Sirius XM radio channel, Blue Collar Radio. Then came Blue Collar Comedy Tour, the movie, in 2003. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it became a cult favorite. More importantly, it cemented Larry's signature catchphrase, Git-R-Done, into American pop culture. The tour changed the game. It proved that stand-up comedy could be as big as a rock concert. Instead of dimly lit clubs, comedians were now selling out arenas. And at the heart of it all was Larry. Sleeveless shirts, thick southern drawl, and a brand of humor that split audiences right down the middle. A comedic lightning rod. Not everyone was a fan. Some critics dismissed Larry's redneck persona, arguing that it leaned too heavily on stereotypes. His jokes about hunting accidents, wild family gatherings, and over-the-top country living, they said, reinforced negative cliches about rural America. But his fans saw it differently. To them, Larry wasn't mocking their lifestyle. He was celebrating it. He took the everyday struggles of small-town life and turned them into comedy. He wasn't looking down on anyone. He was one of them. Whether you thought his act was outdated or a proud statement of self-reliance and patriotism, one thing was undeniable. Larry had struck a nerve in American comedy. Breaking records and topping charts beyond the stage, Larry was making waves in the music world. His 2001 album, Lord, I Apologize, introduced audiences to his absurd yet relatable humor. Then in 2005, The Right to Bear Arms took things to another level, debuting at number 7 on the Billboard 200, an incredible feat for a comedy album. Both albums went platinum, selling over 1 million copies each, a rare achievement in the digital age. And it wasn't just about sales. The Right to Bear Arms earned Larry a Grammy nomination for Best Comedy Album in 2006. He wasn't just a niche act anymore, he was mainstream. He was filling stadiums and topping charts. But then, in 2006, something happened that would make Larry the Cable Guy a household name far beyond comedy. The Pixar break that changed everything that was the year Pixar called. Larry was cast as the voice of Lubby Mater Year, the goofy, lovable tow truck in Cars. The film was a massive hit, grossing over $1 billion worldwide. It spawned 2 sequels, Cars 2 in 2011 and Cars 3 in 2017, plus billions in merchandise sales. Marta's signature line, "My name's Marta, like two Marta, but without the ta," became instantly recognizable to kids and parents everywhere. For Larry, the role was more than just a paycheck, though he reportedly earned over $5 million for the first film alone. The real reward? Knowing his kids would always have something to remember him by. But Marta wasn't just a one-time gig. The character lived on in spin-offs, theme park attractions, and the Disney Plus series, Cars on the Road. Overnight, Larry's voice became a permanent part of Disney history. For a guy who started out telling jokes in dive bars, it was an unexpected turn. But it proved that Larry the Cable Guy wasn't just a stand-up comic. He was an entertainer with serious range. Only in America, a wild ride on the History Channel. Larry's success didn't stop with Pixar. On February 8, 2011, he launched Only in America with Larry the Cable Guy on the History Channel. The show threw him into bizarre, uniquely American adventures, making moonshine in the backwoods, wrangling alligators, even riding with the Hells Angels. Each episode opened the same way. "Listen up, America. I'm Larry the Cable Guy, and I love this country." For 2 years, Larry crisscrossed the nation, diving headfirst into the traditions and oddities that made America. Well, America. It wasn't just comedy. It was an exploration of culture, history, and what it meant to be truly American. But as Larry's career soared behind the scenes, he was battling demons that no one saw coming, and soon, everything would change. Larry the Cable Guy, the price of fame and the power of family. Larry the Cable Guy's journey to success was nothing short of extraordinary, but like all great stories, it came with sacrifices. When Only in America, with Larry the Cable Guy, premiered on the History Channel in 2011, it was an instant hit. The very first episode, Larry Makes Moonshine, drew 4.1 million viewers, setting the stage for a wild 3-season adventure. Fans watched as he took on bizarre and extreme jobs, working as a fishmonger, training with U.S. Army snipers, and even helping to build a medieval castle. The show was unpredictable, sometimes absurd, but always entertaining. No matter the situation, Larry had a gift for connecting with people, turning everyday experiences into something memorable. But behind the laughs, the non-stop filming took a toll. For 6 days a week, Larry was on the road. Meanwhile, his 2 young sons, just 5 and 6 years old when the show began, were growing up without him. He missed milestones, school events, and those irreplaceable little moments that make fatherhood special. The constant travel put a strain on his marriage. Then came the porta potty episode. In 2012, Larry had done plenty of wild things for the show, but nothing prepared him for this. Cleaning festival porta potties was, in his own words, the most disgusting thing I've ever done. The episode became infamous, but for Larry, it was more than just another stunt. It was a wake-up call. He started to ask himself, how far am I willing to go for entertainment? Millions of people were tuning in, but at what cost? After 3 successful seasons, Larry made a decision that shocked many. He walked away. Only in America was a hit, but he realized that missing his kids' early years just wasn't worth it. Fame wasn't the most important thing, family was. A love story rooted in simplicity. Larry the Cable Guy, whose real name is Daniel Lawrence Whitney, had spent years making people laugh, but away from the stage, his life was shaped by love, sacrifice, and a deep commitment to giving back. His journey with his wife, Kara Whitney Otatsur, is a testament to that. In 2004, Larry was in Los Angeles, laser-focused on his comedy career. That's where he met Kara, a radio DJ from Wisconsin who had grown up on a cattle ranch. Their connection? They both liked the smell of cattle trucks. Just a year later, on July 3rd, 2005. They were married, but don't expect a flashy Hollywood wedding. Larry and Kara kept it simple. They tied the knot in an open field in Nebraska. No extravagant venue, no celebrity guest list. The entire ceremony cost just $180. That choice reflected who they were. Kara never sought the spotlight. Over time, she stepped away from radio, dedicating herself to writing, philanthropy, and raising their family. Meanwhile, Larry was at the peak of his career. At one point, he was performing up to 287 shows a year. Constantly traveling and missing time with his children, Wyatt and Reagan, Kara saw how much it weighed on him. She urged him to cut back and focus on what mattered most: being present for his family. In 2015, Larry made a drastic change. He cut his workload by 90%, reducing his tour schedule from nearly 300 shows a year to fewer than 25. For the first time in years, he had time to enjoy life on their Nebraska ranch, watch his kids grow up, and simply be there when they needed him. Giving back, the Git-R-Done Foundation. Larry's dedication to family didn't stop at his own home. In 2009, he and Kara founded the Git-R-Done Foundation, using his success to support those in need. Over the years, the foundation has donated over $7 million to causes ranging from children's hospitals to veterans groups and families facing medical hardships. One of their biggest contributions? A $5 million donation to Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children, funding research and treatment for hip dysplasia, a cause that was deeply personal to them. The foundation has also partnered with Sokunsui, Operation Homefront, providing support for military families. Larry never forgot where he came from, and he never took his success for granted. The man behind the comedy. Larry the Cable Guy built an empire on laughs, but behind the sleeveless shirts, the over-the-top accent, and the catchphrases, he's a man who made a choice. Fame fades, family doesn't. Today, he's still making people laugh, but on his own terms. He's still Larry the Cable Guy. But first and foremost, he's a husband, a father, and a man who chose what truly mattered. And in the end, that's what really got her done. The rise, the fall, and the changing face of comedy. For nearly a decade, Larry the Cable Guy was one of the highest-paid comedians in America, from 2006 to 2012. He was raking in an astonishing $50 million a year, thanks to sold-out tours, hit albums, and lucrative endorsement deals. His catchphrase, Git-R-Done, became a part of American pop culture, and his over-the-top redneck persona made him a household name. He wasn't just filling comedy clubs, he was selling out football stadiums. In 2009, he performed in something no other comedian did again until Kevin Hart in 2015. His comedy albums, Lord I Apologize, and The Right to Bear Arms, both went gold, bringing in even more cash. Then came the endorsement deals. His biggest, a multi-million-dollar contract with Solo, Prilosec OTC Son, a heartburn medication. The ads were everywhere, on TV, in magazines, even on NASCAR cars. With all that money, Larry did what many stars do. He invested in real estate. In 2016, he bought a $3.6 million mansion in North Scottsdale, Arizona. The house had 4 bedrooms, an outdoor kitchen, a golf course, and a pool with a spa. It was a long way from his humble beginnings in Nebraska, but not everyone was impressed. Critics started calling out the ironies of a multi-millionaire comedian, still pushing a blue-collar image. How could someone with a mansion, endorsements, and private jets still claim to be one of the guys? Then came trouble with the IRS. Larry had been claiming his signature flannel shirts and trucker hats as business expenses. His legal team argued they were part of his stage persona, but the IRS wasn't buying it. They said, unless he only wore them on stage, they didn't count. It turned into a long, expensive battle. Burnout, lawsuits, and the shifting comedy landscape. By 2014, the relentless touring schedule was wearing him down. He was burned out, exhausted, and in desperate need of a break. He cancelled several shows. But that didn't sit well with promoters. They sued him for breach of contract, claiming the cancellations cost them a fortune. Fans, too, were divided. Some understood, while others felt abandoned. But the biggest hit to his career wasn't burnout or lawsuits. It was Markan, the changing comedy landscape. After Pixar 1, 2015, bookings for Larry Ibao dropped by 60%. Comedy was shifting. Younger audiences were gravitating toward comedians like Bo Burnham and Hannah Gadsby. whose humor focused on personal stories, mental health, and social issues. Larry's exaggerated redneck character wasn't landing the same way it used to. In an era where cultural sensitivity was becoming more important, his style of humor started to feel outdated. Jokes that once packed stadiums now seemed out of place. He kept going, releasing stand-up specials like Remain Seated in 2020, but they didn't reach the same heights as his past work. At one point, Larry was making $50 million a year. He was one of the biggest names in comedy. But times changed. The audiences that once filled stadiums to see him had moved on. Politics, controversies, and a joke that sparked a debate. Larry never shied away from sharing his opinions, but his political takes were just unique. During the Pixar 2016 presidential election, he made an infamous endorsement on Fox and Friends. "I'm a Trump man, and when I say Trump man, I mean Gary Johnson." Then he dropped a line that went viral. "Let's see, do I want to poop my pants, or do I want somebody else to poop my pants? I think I'll go with pooping my own pants." It was his way of saying he wasn't thrilled about either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, his pick. Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson wasn't so much about support. It was about frustration with the system. The comment made headlines. Some laughed, some were confused. Even Gary Johnson's campaign responded on Twitter, inviting him to talk more about his views. But Larry wasn't just cracking jokes. He was voicing a sentiment a lot of Americans shared. This election feels like a no-win situation. Then came another political controversy. In 2023. During President Joe Biden's State of the Union address, Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene spent the night heckling him, waving her arms and shouting. Larry tweeted about it, comparing her behavior to every comedian's ex-girlfriend coming to their show and sitting in the back 6 days after the breakup. The joke set off a firestorm. Some of his conservative fans accused him of attacking Greene unfairly. Others even called him woke. Larry was quick to fire back. "Unbelievable. Lighten up, some of you. Sheesh." He later clarified that he respected Greene's boldness, but thought she could use some speech lessons. His take, mocking her while still showing some support, only added to the debate. Fans were divided. Some defended him. Others questioned where he really stood politically. It was a surprising controversy. Larry had always been popular with conservative audiences. If even he was getting backlash from his own fan base, it showed just how sensitive political conversations had become. Even a simple joke could turn into a major debate. Comedy, free speech, and what comes next. Beyond politics, Larry has also spoken out about free speech and comedy. He's seen how the industry has changed and how the boundaries of humor have shifted. Once, comedians could say almost anything for the sake of a laugh. Now they have to be careful. Some argue that's a good thing. It pushes comedians to be smarter and more creative. Others, like Larry, worry that comedy is losing its voyage. Despite everything, the shifting comedy scene, the controversies, the lawsuits, Larry has never stopped performing. He may not be selling out football stadiums anymore, but he's still on stage, still telling jokes, and still making people laugh. His career may have slowed down, but his legacy is already cemented. Whether you love him, hate him, or just miss the old days of blue-collar comedy, there's no denying Larry the Cable Guy made his mark, and he did it on his own terms. Larry the Cable Guy, The Rise, the Fall, and the fight to stay relevant. For years, Larry the Cable Guy was one of America's top comedians, making $50 million a year. At his peak, his Git-R-Done catchphrase, sleeveless flannel shirts, and over-the-top redneck persona made him a household name. But behind the jokes, the money, and the fame, Larry faced a series of battles, from all health struggles and career decline, to criticism, controversies, and personal crises. Free speech, cancel culture, and hypocrisy. See accusations. Larry has never been shy about his views on cancel culture. In interviews, he's argued that comedians should be free to joke about anything. Without fear of backlash, he believes audiences have become too sensitive, and that jokes people once laughed at are now considered offensive. His stance aligns with his libertarian beliefs. He supports personal freedom and dislikes censorship of any kind. However, some have accused him of hypocrisy. While he speaks out against corporate influence in politics and media, he's also been a long-time sponsor for big companies like Prilosec, OTC, Soki, Tui. Critics argue that you're taking corporate money weakens his message of independent thinking. Larry doesn't see it that way. He claims sponsorships allow him to support causes he cares about, including his Git-R-Done Foundation, which has raised millions for children and veterans. To him, working with brands isn't a sign that he's sold out. It's a smart business decision. But the debate continues. Does corporate sponsorship hurt his credibility, or is it just part of staying in the game? The health crisis that almost ended his career. Behind the scenes, Larry was struggling with serious health issues that nearly cost him everything. At